Well, Liv, I think part of the reason we've come to see you today is because you recently honed a dog to our boss, Ben Keith, and he is absolutely in love with Goldie. How on earth do you match a greyhound to a man like that?
Well, I think at the time, actually, I remember getting a message from Kim saying that Ben had recently lost his pet Whippet and was looking for maybe a small female greyhound. And at the time, we actually didn't have any what I deemed small female greyhounds at the time, but I said, actually, Ben, remind me a bit about sort of, where you live and your setup there, just so that I can make sure that it's, a suitable dog that I'm going to suggest to you. And so Ben told me a bit about what he was looking for, and we had Goldie, who we'd recently had at an event with us at Walthamstow Market, so quite busy, lots going on in London, lots of traffic, lots of people, hustle and bustle, and she dealt with the whole occasion really well. And she'd shown a particular fondness to a number of children that had come along, including one toddler who did not want to leave and made multiple visits back to the stand. And I had actually said to her parents, do you mind if I get a picture? Because actually this is great publicity. I'm not going to plaster this everywhere, but if the right home comes along, I think it would be great for me to be able to show this interaction. And they were fine with it. So I luckily had these pictures too. So I said, Ben, she might not be the smallest of bitches, but I think she'll be a perfect match. So I sent Ben a couple of pictures, and I guess we did things slightly differently with Ben. Sometimes I invite people to the kennels to come and meet the dogs. I got the impression that Ben was ready to open his heart and home to a dog quite quickly, and was quite happy to go with what suggestions, we had. And I said, I can't really see much, beyond Goldie. Sent him a few pictures, and then within about 48 hours, I was heading to his home to do a home visit, Goldie in tow, just to make sure that, everyone got on and liked each other. And of course, it was always going to be fine. And she stayed, and is getting on really well, and I was really delighted to see her attending the Derby recently too.
And so calm as well. She was so well behaved. The whole family completely in love with her. So that was a very successful homing. I want to say as well that he also lives in a very large but a flat, and that is doable. These dogs are very adaptable, aren't they?
Oh, definitely. We always say that they are probably the most adaptable breed. In fact, sometimes we get inquiries and people say, we live in a flat, is that a problem? And I say, well, actually, I've got a garden that I've got free access to with my dogs, and it's a lot easier. If I lived in a flat, it would be a lot more commitment. So I think those that actually reach out to us, first of all, to offer a home to a dog when they are in a flat, maybe without direct access to a garden, straight away, I think, well, they're obviously very committed. Secondly, the dogs don't need a massive space to live in. Of course, they need somewhere that's comfortable and enough space for them to be able to, live comfortably. And obviously, Ben's got plenty of space. But as we said, traditionally, a lot of rehoming centres and rehoming places would look to home dogs, especially greyhounds, because of misconceptions rather, into homes with gardens. But actually, they're quite happy. A couple of on-lead walks a day is all that they need, and they're quite comfortable with that. In fact, I've got a garden with mine, and do they utilise the garden? No. Do they prefer their walks? Yes, they're way more interesting, lots more to sniff, lots more going on. So yeah, it's not not a problem at all for us. In fact, at our Lincolnshire site, Kevin, I believe, has rehomed some greyhounds that live on a houseboat, and they're very happy and well loved. So we always say it's not about the actual layout of the home, it's about the people. Are they going to love this dog for the rest of their lives and give them a good home? And if they are, then that's the main thing for us.
Tell us more about Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust, because this is who you are homing dogs on behalf of, but we're in your area today, Epping way. How does it work? Why are you in Epping but working for Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust?
Okay, I'm just going to do a brief overview as best I can. Not great at keeping things concise. So Kevin Stowe and Mandy Stowe set up Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust, I'd like to say in 1994 or 2004. I think it's probably 2004, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin. And have been homing greyhounds for a very long time. It all started, they had shares in a race bitch called Sky, Lone Dynamite. And when she retired from racing, Kev and Mandy decided to take her home. And through taking Sky home and working with local RGTs, I believe, Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust was born, independent of the retired Greyhound Trust at the time, and still remains independent now. So that's sort of how it started. Now, what I really like and what we like as a family, I guess, about Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust, which is how I got to know Kevin, is Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust always home check. They work with the racing industry as well, because essentially Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust was born via the racing industry. And they provide a backup for life for the dogs. So every dog that is rehomed by Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust will have backup for the rest of its life. And that's really important to us. And so my dad owned a number of race dogs over the years, and we specifically seeked out Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust, being independent and, you know, very restricted in their views and very careful with, you know, what's said and what's not said. The dogs are never viewed as, you know, a sad case. It's always actually on the merit for that individual dog, and that's important to us. But also that they do home visit and that they do provide a backup for life was really important to us. So we homed a lot of dogs through Kevin, and we had quite a lot of dogs at the time, and Kevin said one day, oh, why don't you look to start helping us do some home visits? We might be able to home some dogs sort of under the guidance of LGT but local to you. And at first I dismissed the idea. I said, nope, no home will be good enough. We will have a kennel full of dogs because I will not trust anybody. But I, you know, caved in and started to take on board what Kevin had suggested, and we homed Honey, a homebred actually of our own, Canine Candy, I can't remember the date now, a number of years ago, and she was the first dog we homed, and it grew from there really. I think we did maybe 5 or 6 in one autumn for the first year we started, and it's grown ever since.
So when you say your family, essentially it's you and your sister Beth, who people in the racing industry will be very familiar with. How do you do it? What are your roles? I mean, you both work full time, Monday to Friday. Your weekends taken up with this?
Yes, so we do both work full time. So it's a labour of love, and it takes up a lot of time. It takes up quite a bit of our weekend time. We fit it in somehow. I don't know how. We both work quite full on jobs as well. We've got, you know, pet dogs at home. Beth's got a pony, and, you know, manage to somehow maintain some form of social life too, including holidays. So it's just about, I guess, utilising our time as best we can. We do it in, you know, at weekends, evenings, and, you know, the summer gives us a lot more time. The lighter evenings gives us a lot more capacity to get the dogs out and about more in the summer too. I don't know how we fit it in. I couldn't actually tell you. When I sit back and think about it, I do wonder, but we somehow do, and it works. So we're just going to keep going. I don't know what the recipe to it is, but it's working at the moment.
Absolutely, and it must be incredibly rewarding. How is homing at the moment, and how is it impacted by COVID? What's the sort of wave and trend been over the last couple of years?
I'd say it has been slow up till recently. We've had a little flurry recently, which has been great. COVID was a strange time. We didn't know how it would impact homing, and of course suddenly there was an influx. Loads of people were suddenly working from home. People that had maybe put on the back burner getting a dog until circumstances with work changed were reaching out to us. People that were maybe waiting until they'd been on this big holiday they had planned were then not able to go on that holiday, so were then contacting us. So COVID saw, I'd say, a big spike in the number of dogs homed. Since restrictions have been lifted, thankfully, we haven't had, you know, a massive number of dogs returned because of people returning to work. But what we have noticed is a little bit of a dip, certainly toward the beginning of this year, where people were able to do things and had a lot more plans. So we're almost pausing and putting off getting new family members until maybe the autumn, because actually they could go on holiday again, they could go out and about. So I'd say we had a flurry and a spike during COVID, but I think it's just levelling out again. I wouldn't say that the situation is particularly terrible now, and it's started to pick up a little bit. I've read a lot and seen a lot of people that feel numbers are down. I am slightly apprehensive about the current economic, you know, situation that we're in at the moment. Everything's going up, and of course extra expenses such as having a pet will be one of the first things that people potentially have to really reconsider. I'd say COVID, gave us a spike. Flattened out a little bit, but I'd say overall it's been fairly consistent if you then look at it over a period of time.
And the figures are good. I know you've got them there in front of you.
You know, I had to write them down.
The trust does amazing work.
Yeah, so since LGT started, I can't remember the exact date, and I should know it. We've homed a number of, 2,302 greyhounds. That's not myself and Beth here based at Epping. That is Kevin and the team at Lincolnshire, Bob Oakes, who runs a small satellite kennel similar to ours in Oxford, and of course Epping. So that's a lot of dogs that have been placed into homes across the time that Lincolnshire Greyhound Trust has been in existence. 2020 was our best ever year. We homed a record number of dogs, 205, and 58 of those were homed from Epping. 2021 we homed 171 dogs across the charity and 35 here from Epping. 2022 has been a slower year, so 87 across the whole of the charity and 32 here from Epping. So our numbers in Epping haven't, looked to be on course, I guess, for exceeding last year's, but overall I'd say numbers across the country are probably down. I think the reason that maybe some of our numbers this year have been a little bit higher is we've had a lot of people that have got established pets and are actually coming back to us to say it's time to introduce a friend. So I think maybe our figures are somewhat skewed because they're existing homes as opposed to new homes.